Okay, the next portion of what you're going to do for today is going to be some word problems. Okay, there are not that many, but we are going to start doing some word problems. Okay, so example number 3. Okay, now we're going to get into where are these possibly going to be useful in the real world. Okay, because they are, believe it or not. Okay, they will be useful, whether or not you feel like they will. Okay, so for number 3, if I tell you that the revenue, does anyone know, what does the word revenue mean? How much you make, okay? The revenue are, that can be, the revenue are, it's the variable we're going to use, that can be made by selling phones. We're going to play with cell phones today. The revenue are that can be made by selling phones at price P, can be modeled by the equation R, uppercase R, equals -2p squared plus 100p. So, if you have a business, you have some, people that have done your advertising and your marketing for you, this is what they've come up with your revenue to be. Okay, so your revenue, how much you can make by selling at a particular price P, is generally in business, they are parabolic curves. Okay, so it's a curve. Okay, if you sell something really cheap, you'll probably sell a lot of them, but you might not actually make very much money because you have to pay to make things. Okay, if you sell it really expensive, you're probably not going to sell very many. So there's kind of a happy medium. Okay, generally something will go, and if you go to business school, you will have to do this kind of a lot. Okay, it's called generating a revenue stream, okay, or a revenue curve. Almost always your revenue curves look like parabolas. Now you don't need to do this, okay, but if you're figuring out what your revenue is, this is your R, this is your price. Okay, if we're figuring out what our revenue is, if you sell something super cheap, you're not actually going to make very much money because you have to pay to have something made. Okay, if you sell something super expensive, again, you're not going to make very much money because no one's going to buy it. Okay, so we want to find this middle point. Okay, generally, we want to figure out how can I maximize my revenue. What's the good price for me to sell things at so that I can actually make a lot of money? Okay, so the A portion of this question is I want to find what price, okay, what price will maximize the company's revenue. Okay, what price will maximize the company's revenue? Okay. And then the B portion is I want to know what is the maximum revenue. Okay, so I want to know what price will maximize the company's revenue and what is the maximum revenue. Okay, so not only how much did I sell these for, but how much can I possibly make selling these things? Okay, so first thing you want to do here is label what is kind of your X and what's your Y. So if I was going to write these as a coordinate pair, how would I write them? Would P be first or would R be first? Based on just looking at these, what's in the Y portion? The Y spot, the R. What's in the X portion? The P. Okay, so look at the equation. It's written just like a quadratic equation. Okay, something squared. Okay, this is like a Y equals with the X's squared. It's the same thing, it's just barely different letters. Okay, but you can do that. So here, what price will maximize the company's revenue? So I've already kind of decided that this is a maximum, right? So what I'm basically trying to do here is find the maximum. Okay, I want to find the maximum. I want to find the coordinates here. So if I want to find what price will maximize the company's revenue, what am I actually asking you to find here? The P, which is like the what? The x coordinate of the vertex, okay? This is the x coordinate of the vertex, okay? That would be the price. The price is the x coordinate of the vertex. What is the maximum revenue? What am I actually finding here? What do I actually need to find here? The y coordinate of the vertex. Okay, the y coordinate of the vertex. So anytime we're asking about maximums, okay, almost always on these word problems, we are basically finding the vertex of the parabola. Okay, so we're essentially finding the vertex of the parabola. So how would I find the x coordinate of this vertex? Any ideas? We just did this.
Set R to 0.
No, we're not going to set R to 0. That would find the x-intercepts. Okay, I don't want to find out where I make 0. That's not going to help me. I want to find the what? Basically the line of symmetry. Exactly. I want to find where am I going to maximize things. Okay, so basically you want to find your line of symmetry. So remember, line of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. If we plug this in, what is b in this equation? 100. So negative 100 over 2 times, what's your a? Yes, ma'am?
Can't you, like, do the descriptive thing?
Could you make this in descriptive? No. Okay? You cannot change this to be descriptive form because there is a single variable. Okay? If I gave you something like negative 2p squared plus 100, then you could change it to descriptive form. But since that p is attached there, you have to use standard form. Okay, you can't do that. You can change things. I see where, because yesterday we did a lot like that, but they didn't have the p at the end. Okay, they don't have the x at the end. So if you have 2 letters, okay, if you see that letter twice, you have to use standard form, basically. Okay, so if you rewrite this, that would give you negative 100 over negative 4. That reduces to be 25. Okay, so what does that tell you? What price will maximize the company's revenue? 25 what? Probably dollars, okay? So if I sell these phones at $25, we're saying that is the best price for them, okay? We all wish that we had $25 phones, okay? Apparently, if a company sold phones for $25, a lot of us would probably buy them, right? Yes. So this kind of makes sense, you know. Hey, everyone would buy them, okay? Whereas if your phones are, well, but they might not be very good. Good point. Okay, so x coordinate. Now, does it make sense? Would it make sense if you got a negative number? No. No, that would not make any sense. Okay, so think about these things. Okay, when you are doing word problems, we actually need to think about them. Now, what is the maximum revenue? So basically, remember, I'm making this giant graph. Okay, this is my revenue. This is my price. Okay, and like I said, this is a parabola shape. So we've decided that at x equals 25.
I can't see your.
Oh, sorry. Exactly. So we know that the x coordinate of this is 25, comma, what? Okay, we know that if you sell them for $25, you can sell the most. Now we want to figure out how much money I can make. So basically that is the y coordinate. So how do I find the rest of the vertex in standard form? Plug it back in. Exactly. So we're going to plug into, even though it says R equals, we are finding the revenue, okay? So R equals negative 2p squared plus 100p. We found that price was equal to 25. So now we actually want to plug it in. So R equals negative 2 times 25 squared plus 100 times 25. Okay? If we work this out, we get negative 2 times, what's 25 squared? Anyone know? 625. Plus 100 times 25 gives you 2,500. If you work this out, we got negative 1250 plus 2,500. If you add those together, we get $1,250. So basically, what is the maximum amount of money I can make? $1,250. Okay, so the y coordinate is $1,250. So these are, now, obviously if you were, you had a large business or something, you're not just going to make $1,250. Okay, you might make like $12 million or something like that. Okay, so we've obviously taken off some zeros, but this is where a lot of times, I know in math, why do I ever need to use this? Okay, you're right. Technically, someone would probably plug this into a spreadsheet. Okay, but you might want to, okay, let's kind of think about this. Okay, generally in business, graphs are used a lot. Okay, so even if you're not the one actually plugging it in and figuring it out, you do need to understand the concept. Okay, you need to understand that, okay, of course, if I sell it really cheap, I'm not going to make any money because I have to pay for things to be made. If I sell it too expensive, I'm not going to make any money because nobody will buy it. Okay, so you need to understand at least the concept of there is a curve. Okay, there is a curve to making money in business. Okay.